that true?
Mm-hmm.
You don't worry about things?
No, because it doesn't do any good. The thing is, let's say you worry about a problem. So here you are worrying and all this stuff. All of a sudden the problem's solved. All that anguish for nothing. You know, the thing is, worry doesn't solve the problem, and it actually hinders the problem.
You said slight potential.
Just 7 days a week.
Have you ever crunched your instep or anything? Or?
No. They, you know.
Nobody ever pictured Chuck Norris stepping into the spotlight to spill anything personal. This is a man who built his whole image on silence, discipline, and letting his skills speak louder than any interview ever could. Whether he was shutting down villains on screen or mastering real-life martial arts, he always kept his cool and stayed out of drama. But out of nowhere, Chuck hit everyone with something emotional and totally unexpected, and people couldn't believe he finally opened up. Chuck ended up speaking out for the first time in years, and what he shared left people stunned. This wasn't the guy who usually opened up about personal frustrations, yet here he was, revealing that there were 5 actors he simply could not deal with. Hearing that from someone known for staying professional made the moment hit even harder. So what pushed a legend like Chuck to finally talk? And who were the actors that managed to get under his skin? Before getting into that, you gotta understand where he came from because his early life shaped everything. Chuck Norris was born on March 10, 1940, in Ryan, Oklahoma. His mom, Wilma, came from Irish roots, and his dad, Ray D. Norris, who was Cherokee, worked all kinds of jobs. Ray was a World War II vet, a mechanic, and even drove buses and trucks just to keep things going. Chuck was the oldest of 3 brothers, and his younger brother Wyland once told him he wouldn't make it past 27. And tragically, that ended up being true when Wyland lost his life during the Vietnam War in 1970. When Chuck was 16, his parents split, and his mom moved the family from Prairie Village, Kansas to Torrance, California. Life wasn't easy at all. Chuck said he was shy, not into sports, and just an average kid in school. Their dad wasn't around much either, going off on long drinking sprees, which only added more stress at home. All this made Chuck keep to himself for a long time. In 1958, Chuck enlisted in the U.S. Air Force and got sent to South Korea, where he picked up the nickname Chuck and started learning Tang Soo Do. He trained non-stop until he earned a black belt. When he came back to the U.S., he stayed in the Air Force in California and opened his own martial arts studio while waiting to hear back from the police department he applied to. At first, Chuck wasn't dominating tournaments. He actually lost a few early matches, but he kept grinding, and in 1967 he started winning major competitions. He even went up against top names like Joe Louis and came out on top. He opened more karate schools and ended up teaching celebrities like Steve McQueen, Bob Barker, and Donny Osmond. His final martial arts loss happened in 1968, but that same year, he won the middleweight karate championship and held onto that title for 6 straight years. When he finally retired from competition, he was undefeated. Around that time, he became close friends with Bruce Lee, whom he met during a tournament in 1972. Chuck later played the main villain in Bruce Lee's hit movie Way of the Dragon, which blew up at the box office and put Chuck right in the spotlight. From there, Chuck began taking on more movie roles and even enrolled in acting classes after Steve McQueen encouraged him to. His big break as a lead actor came with Breaker! In 1977, and a year later, he starred in Good Guys Wear Black. That movie was made on a tiny budget but ended up earning millions, officially making Chuck America's first major martial arts movie star. Chuck Norris started standing out in the action world because his movies weren't focused on far-off settings or Hong Kong-style plots. They were built around American stories, American streets, and American heroes. That twist made him feel different in a sea of martial arts films, and people locked onto it fast. In 1979, he showed up in A Force of One, playing a karate champ helping the police crack a dangerous case while still promoting Good Guys Wear Black. And here's the wild thing, no studio even wanted Good Guys Wear Black at first, yet it ended up pulling in around $20 million, proving everybody wrong. By 1980, Chuck came back with The Octagon, taking on ninja-trained terrorists, and this time, studios were finally paying attention. The movie nearly hit $19 million, showing that Chuck was officially a major box office threat. After that, He kept building momentum with projects like An Eye for an Eye, and then in 1982, he switched things up with the horror action film Silent Rage, his first major studio release under Columbia Pictures. Later that year, MGM offered him a 3-film deal and released Forced Vengeance. But Chuck wasn't feeling the creative direction, so he shut that deal down and moved on to what he truly believed in. Then 1983 hit, and everything changed with Lone Wolf McQuade. Chuck played a rugged Texas Ranger, and critics were loving it. Some even compared the vibe to old-school spaghetti westerns, and Roger Ebert hit it with a 3.5-star rating, calling Chuck's character iconic. Around this time, he even dropped a fitness book and a video game called Chuck Norris Superkicks, showing he wasn't just about movies. But 1984 is when Chuck stepped into the full-action spotlight. He starred in Missing in Action, playing Colonel James Braddock, a soldier fighting to liberate POWs in Vietnam. The role meant a lot to him because it was inspired by his brother who passed during the Vietnam War, and the film became a massive hit. In 1985, he dropped Code of Silence, showing off a deeper, more dramatic side. Critics called it one of his strongest performances, and it dominated the box office on opening weekend. He kept that momentum rolling with Missing in Action 2, Invasion USA, and then teamed up with Lee Marvin for the Delta Force. He even voiced himself in the cartoon Karate Commandos, proving he could reach every age group without switching up who he was. In 1987, he co-authored a best-selling self-improvement book called The Secret of Inner Strength. But while his career was taking off, his personal life had its own story playing out. Chuck married his high school sweetheart, Diane K. Hollick, in December 1958. He was 18, she was 17, and they met back in their school days in Torrance, California. They had their first son in 1962, and the next year Chuck had a daughter from a brief relationship outside the marriage. In 1964, he and Diane welcomed their second son, Eric. After 3 decades together, Chuck and Diane split while he was filming Delta Force 2. They separated in 1988 and finalized the divorce in 1989. Years later, on November 28, 1998, Chuck married Gina O'Kelly, a former model who was 23 years younger than him. Gina had 2 kids of her own, and she and Chuck welcomed twins on August 30, 2001. In a 2004 interview, Chuck shared a deeply personal moment. He said he didn't meet his daughter from his earlier relationship until she was 26. She had learned he was her father at 16, but they didn't connect until she wrote him a heartfelt letter in 1990 after his divorce from Diane. From that point on, they built a real relationship. Since 2017, Chuck has stepped into grandparent life too. He now has 13 grandchildren. Even though his family journey had twists and tough moments, he always tried to stay connected and stand up as a responsible father and grandfather. Even with all the pushback he faced, Chuck Norris didn't back off from his views and stood publicly with conservative and religious groups supporting Proposition 8. The proposal was later ruled unconstitutional in 2010. But the whole situation brought national attention to the ongoing conversations and struggles around LGBTQ+ rights in the United States. Chuck's role in that moment still shows how much influence a celebrity can have when they step into political debates, especially on topics linked to equality and civil rights. When it came to his hit show Walker, Texas Ranger, Chuck saw a whole different type of criticism coming his way. The series ran from 1993 to 2001 and became a household name, especially for its wild action scenes and its take on justice. But critics didn't hold back. They claimed the show glamorized vigilante behavior and painted an extreme picture of policing. One 1993 review even called out a moment where Walker shuts down a suspect who complains about not being read his rights with a jaw-breaking kick, warning that scenes like that might influence how people see real-life law enforcement. A 1995 UCLA study also pointed out that the show had long, graphic hand-to-hand fights, raising concerns about how younger viewers might interpret that level of violence. Chuck pushed back on the criticism, saying the fights were always framed within a moral message. He said, There's a lot of action, but it's all done with a moral background. It's justice, fighting injustice, making it clear he believed the show had purpose behind the punches. Even with the complaints, Walker, Texas Ranger kept huge viewership numbers, showing that a lot of people connected with the simple idea of good winning over evil. The show's success proved that despite the heated debates around it, audiences were drawn to its clean-cut heroes and straight-to-the-point justice style. At one point, he was even called the most violent man on television during an ABC special, which made both fans and critics see him in a whole new light. Then came the era that blew Chuck's image into the stratosphere, the Chuck Norris facts trend. In early 2005, the internet went wild with over-the-top jokes about Chuck's toughness, turning him into a larger-than-life legend online. People had been making jokes about his strength since the 80s, but this new wave took things to a whole new level. The trend started in the Something Awful forums, where users were roasting Vin Diesel after his movie The Pacifier, and somehow the attention shifted to Chuck instead. The jokes painted Chuck as superhuman, stuff straight out of comic book level exaggeration. They reminded people of the Bill Brasky sketches from Saturday Night Live, mixed with older jokes Conan O'Brien used to make about Chuck's work on Walker, Texas Ranger. Before long, the internet was flooded with these outrageous one-liners, and they became a massive part of pop culture. Comedian Ian Spector became one of the main names behind the movement. He created online generators that let people make their own Chuck Norris facts, and he even released books like The Truth About Chuck Norris, 400 Facts About the World's Greatest Human in 2007, and Chuck Norris vs. Mr. T 400 Facts About the Baddest Dudes in the History of Ever in 2008. These books locked the trend into mainstream culture. When Chuck finally responded, he kept his cool. He said some of the jokes were funny but reminded everyone not to take them literally. He also said he hoped the humor would push people to look up real information about him, especially the true stories he shared in his books. Back in 2006, Chuck Norris wrote a column responding to the non-stop jokes swirling around him, but instead of leaning into the tough guy hype, he took the humble route and directed all the attention toward his faith in God and Jesus Christ. Even though the internet had its own sense of humor about him, he kept his tone respectful and low-key. But in December 2007, things shifted when he filed a lawsuit against Penguin USA, the publisher behind The Truth About Chuck Norris. He claimed the book stepped on his trademark rights and invaded his privacy, though he later dropped the case in 2008. Even with that mix of reactions, Chuck still ended up becoming a full-blown meme legend online. By 2009, he doubled down on the craze and released the official Chuck Norris Factbook, a project he personally approved and co-wrote. As the years rolled on, those famous facts kept popping up everywhere, from TV ads to blockbuster movies. In the 2012 film The Expendables 2, they even dropped one of the most iconic jokes. Chuck Norris was bitten by a king cobra, but after 5 days of suffering, the cobra died. That line alone showed how deeply the trend had rooted itself in pop culture. Even in 2017, the jokes hadn't slowed down. A United Healthcare commercial featuring Chuck included two guys at a diner joking about his so-called legendary toughness, throwing out lines like, "Chuck Norris wears a hat to hide the sun." Stuff like that proved the internet's love for his mythical image was still going strong. Then came one of the most serious chapters involving Chuck, when his wife, Gina Norris, filed a lawsuit in 2017 saying she became severely ill after undergoing MRI scans that used gadolinium-based contrast agents, known as GBCAS. She explained that after 3 MRI sessions within 8 days, she started dealing with intense symptoms like a pounding heartbeat and severe burning sensations throughout her body. Even after multiple hospital visits, nothing improved, pushing her to seek alternative treatments all the way in China, including chelation therapy and stem cell procedures. While her condition showed some improvement, Gina said she continued to struggle with painful muscle cramps in her hands and ongoing back pain, describing herself as feeling completely broken. She accused several companies of hiding risks she believed were tied to these contrast agents. Gadolinium itself is a heavy metal, and GBCAs are designed so the body can flush them out safely through urine using a chelating agent. These dyes have been used in MRIs since 1988, but research later showed that sometimes the body doesn't fully eliminate all of the gadolinium, allowing it to accumulate in places like the brain, bones, and kidneys, even in people with normal kidney function. In 2015, the FDA issued a warning about the possibility of gadolinium buildup in the brain. Later, the agency stated there wasn't enough evidence yet to link that buildup to confirmed health damage, but the idea of any metal lingering in the brain, besides just thoughts, left many people uneasy. Some research has suggested that gadolinium exposure could potentially be connected to complications such as kidney trouble, pancreatitis, or neurological symptoms in animals and humans. Even with those concerns, GBCAs still play a valuable role in medical imaging, helping doctors spot issues that might otherwise stay hidden. Gina's lawsuit brought a lot of attention to the potential risks tied to these agents, and her case could push for more studies or lead others to step forward with similar concerns. Whether her lawsuit will succeed is still uncertain, but it already sparked wider conversations about safety and long-term effects, and time will reveal whether more individuals decide to share their experiences. When rumors started flying online, Chuck Norris shut them down instantly, saying, "I wasn't there and it wasn't me. There is no place for any violence in our society. I am and will always stand for law and order." His longtime manager, Eric Kritzer, backed him up fast, explaining that Chuck was nowhere near Washington, D.C. that day and was actually at home with his family on their ranch in Texas. Eric even joked that the mystery guy in the photo looked way more handsome, trying to lighten the mood while clearing things up. Not long after, the real identity of the man in the picture came out, and it definitely wasn't Chuck. But by the time the truth surfaced, the wildfire had already spread across social media. The photo bounced around different platforms and triggered all kinds of wild theories, all based on a simple mistaken identity. This whole situation showed just how quickly false info can blow up online, especially when a celebrity is involved. With photos going viral in seconds on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, one wrong assumption can turn into a whole storyline before anyone even checks the facts. Even someone as iconic as Chuck Norris can get caught up in a rumor if people hit share too fast. Moments like this remind everyone that the internet doesn't always tell the truth, and taking a second to verify something can make a huge difference. A single picture might look convincing, but that doesn't make it real. Fact-checking still matters, especially in chaotic times. Now, let's get into the real drama. Actors Chuck Norris reportedly could not stand working with, starting with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Who will win in a fight between me and Chuck Norris? I'll give you the answer. I run very fast. Ta-da!
Before Jean-Claude Van Damme became one of the biggest names in action films, he was a hungry young dreamer fresh from Belgium trying to break into Hollywood. He had run a gym in Brussels, done some modeling and bodybuilding, and eventually jumped on a plane chasing the Hollywood spotlight. Just like countless newcomers, Van Damme worked whatever jobs he could find, driving taxis, serving tables, and taking tiny roles in low-budget films. One of his earliest credits was playing a gay karate man in the 1984 movie Monaco Forever, and he also popped up in the breakdancing film Breakin' the same year. But his most unexpected job? Working as a bouncer at Woody's Wharf, a bar owned by none other than Chuck Norris himself. In a 2019 interview, Van Damme looked back on those days with a laugh, saying American bar crowds were huge compared to what he was used to. He explained that he never had to get physical because he relied on his charm and kept everyone calm, saying he was a good schmoozer, simpatico, and things never got out of hand. At first, everything between him and Chuck seemed friendly, but later reports suggested the friendship didn't last. Rumors circulated in the early 90s about a possible movie collaboration between the two action stars, but the project never happened, supposedly because they couldn't agree creatively. Then, in 2001, during a martial arts exhibition in Texas, Chuck was reportedly critical of Van Damme's discipline and work habits, calling him undisciplined. Even with the tension over the years, both men still rose to massive fame in the action world. They carved their own lanes, built huge fan bases, and became legends in the genre, even though they never ended up sharing the screen together. The early connection between Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal is one of those behind-the-scenes stories people still talk about when discussing the golden era of martial arts movies.
How good is Seagal?
Truthfully, I don't know. I don't know Steven. I've only met him once. Jean-Claude's pretty good.
You can't tell just from seeing his movie,
No.
martial arts.
See,
how
most of
good they are.
Seagal's movies, his action is done close up. You
Yeah.
really can't see. Everything is real quick cuts, so you don't get a chance to really see exactly what he's doing.
Who's the most legitimate Hollywood tough guy, in your opinion? You accept it, of course. It's that hard to think of a legit one?
Can you think of one?
Michael Jai White?
Can I laugh in your face?
Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Can I laugh in your face?
Chuck Norris?
I mean, Chuck is in his mid-70s. He's probably 76 years old, okay? Who's a tough guy? Do I think Michael is a tough guy? No. Do I think he's a martial artist? No. Do I think Jean-Claude's a tough guy or martial artist? No.
By the late 1980s and early 1990s, a serious clash broke out between Steven Seagal and several big names in the martial arts community, including Chuck Norris himself. Things heated up when Seagal made comments that rubbed people the wrong way, reportedly saying Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, and other American martial artists weren't authentic. He even claimed he'd fight anyone who disagreed with him, which stirred things up fast. Bob Wall, who was close friends with both Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, didn't let that slide and rallied a group of respected fighters known as the Dirty Dozen to call Seagal out directly. This lineup wasn't lightweight at all. It included major martial artists like Benny Urquidez, Bill Wallace, and Gene LeBell. They challenged Seagal publicly, telling him to stand behind what he said in an actual fight. Even though the challenge was open for everyone to see, Seagal chose not to accept, which created even more debate inside the martial arts world. Some people felt the Dirty Dozen took things too far, while others believed the response was necessary because respect in martial arts is a huge deal. Even without the fights ever happening, the whole situation became a memorable moment in martial arts history, showing how far the community would go to defend its values and its legacy. Now on to another clash, Shia LaBeouf and Chuck Norris. These two sit on totally opposite ends of Hollywood, and their short time working together reportedly didn't go smoothly at all. Sometime in the late 2000s, both were involved in a commercial shoot, though the details of the project were never fully revealed. According to people who were around during filming, Chuck Norris wasn't impressed with Shia LaBeouf's behavior on set. Some insiders described Shia's attitude as disrespectful or overly intense, possibly because of his dramatic, method-acting style or the bold way he carried himself. Chuck, being old school and extremely disciplined in his work, was said to have zero patience for that kind of energy. Then, in 2020, Chuck posted a message on Facebook that stirred things up even more. The now-deleted post said, "Fame without discipline is chaos," and fans instantly connected it to Shia. Even though Chuck never mentioned him by name, the internet did what it always does and started guessing, creating a fresh wave of speculation overnight. Once Chuck Norris dropped that "fame without discipline is chaos" post, people instantly connected the dots back to his rumored tension with Shia LaBeouf, even though Chuck never named anyone directly. Because Shia had already made headlines several times for unpredictable moments, emotional outbursts, and public controversies, fans thought Chuck was aiming that message right at him. The timing only added fuel to the theories, and the internet ran with it like wildfire. Chuck Norris has always carried himself with a strict mindset built on respect, focus, and self-control, core values he believes apply not just to martial arts but to everyday life as well. He's the type who expects discipline no matter what job he's doing, and that serious attitude shaped his entire career. So when people compared that to Shia LaBeouf's more unpredictable and emotionally intense reputation, the contrast felt extreme to many observers. Shia is known for his raw, expressive style, on-screen and off-it, which sometimes makes him come across as chaotic or volatile to people who don't understand his process. He leans into emotion, improvisation, and risk, and that can clash hard with someone who follows a structured, old-school work ethic like Chuck. That difference in energy alone could have been enough to create friction on set, even without anyone saying a single harsh word. Nobody from either side has publicly explained what really happened, so all we have are the whispers and assumptions that kept bouncing around Hollywood. But situations like this show just how fast personalities can collide in the entertainment world. Sometimes it's not about disrespect or drama. It's simply two completely different approaches to the craft, smashing into each other in a high-pressure environment. Generational gaps and personality differences often stir up tensions behind the scenes, especially when strong-minded people are put in the same room. Chuck and Shia represent two totally different lanes of the industry, one built on discipline and tradition, the other fueled by emotion and experimentation. When those lanes cross, things can get heated fast, even if nobody means for it to happen. But whether the rumored feud was real or blown out of proportion, it added another wild chapter to Chuck Norris's long history of Hollywood clashes. From martial arts legends to rising stars, he's crossed paths with plenty of personalities that didn't mix with his own, and each story shows how unpredictable the film world can really be. If you're into deep dives like this and want more behind-the-scenes stories, make sure you hit that like button and share this video with someone who loves celebrity drama too. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next breakdown. I'll see you in the next one. And if you want even more wild Hollywood moments, check out the next video popping up on your screen.